What's going on, beautiful people? It's Joe, aka the Nomad Investor, where dividends, freedom anywhere is the goal. Today, I'm actually going to be doing a different video than usual. This is not a portfolio update, although I am going to be recording one after this. But I kind of wanted to touch on margin, how to use margin specifically on Robinhood, how to activate it, enable it, and some things that you need to know before you use margin if you so choose to. But before that, real quick, I wanted to share with you guys, we increased our subscribers. We're at 111 subscribers, and we've had 10 videos, and I'm currently working on the 11th one right now, and then I will film a 12th one after this. But yeah, we're doing pretty good here, guys, and I really appreciate all of you who have tuned into this journey of me reaching $0 to $1,000 a month in dividend income. And most importantly, if you are new here, make sure to smash that like button, and most importantly, subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback, or just want to share something with me, comment down below at any point in this video or just at any time, okay? So with that being said, let's get straight into this first. The videos on this channel are for informational, entertainment, and educational purposes only. I am not a financial professional, advisor, and nothing here should be taken as financial, investment, or tax advice. Investing always carries risk. Those seeking financial advice should seek out a registered professional, okay? Now, with that being said, I'm going to hop straight into this. So, I'm not doing a portfolio update, but as you can see right now, I temporarily disabled my margin just for this video for you guys. So, first things first, if you have a Robinhood account, I'm going to quickly share something with you. You will not be able to enable margin unless you have an account balance of $2,000 or more. Preferably, you want more than $2,000 just in case at any point in time your account dips below that $2,000 mark. But I am letting you know now, they do not let you use margin under any circumstances unless you have an account balance of a minimum of $2,000. Okay? With that being said, let's get straight into it. So in this account, as you can see, it's going to, when you click on the buying power, the drop down, it's going to say borrow at some of the lowest margin rates at 5.5% to as low as 4.45%. Now, realistically speaking, unless you are a big baller, shot caller, if you know what I'm saying, and you got a lot of dollars, you're probably not going to qualify for that percentage, but you can still get a 5.5% interest rate. Now, let's hop right into here. We're going to click unlock more buying power. So as you can see here, margin rates are starting at 5.5%. You can look at E-Trade, Charles Schwab, Interactive Brokers, Robinhood. Now, something to keep in mind, if you use any of these other brokerages, you could always negotiate down your margin interest rate. I actually learned this from a YouTube channel by the name of Return on Dividends something. Anyways, that's who I learned about negotiating down margin rates. So first things first, you're going to click down here at the bottom right, enable margin investing. And one thing to note is I highly recommend that if you're going to use margin, you might as well just subscribe to Robinhood Gold. And the reason why is because it says your first 1K is interest free, but I think that actually applies to every $1,000 used at any point in time. So if you just choose to use $1,000, and this is what I've been told, I haven't personally experienced this yet, but I believe every $1,000 is completely free every single time that you use margin. So, or interest free, not free, you still got to pay it back, but it's interest free at least. So it's basically free money. And in my case, because of my account balance, this is what I can borrow up to. Okay, so it's $4,215. And as you can see, it's less than a 50K account, so I'm only going to get a minimum of 5.50%. Now, you can get lower if you deposit more. If you have $50,000 and up, you're going to get 5.30. 100K and up, you're going to get 5%. And then if you're the big ballers, shot callers, you're going to be getting that lower interest rate like we talked about earlier. So anyways, let's enable margin investing down here below. And I'm going to quickly show you guys this. So in my case, because I've done this before, I'm pretty sure that's why it was so easy to enable this. But for some of you, you may have some stuff that you have to agree to, some documents that you have to accept or accept the terms to the conditions of this. So keep that in mind when you're enabling this. But that's pretty simple. You just do that. And as it says, at the end of each 30-day billing cycle, you'll pay interest on the margin you use. You can manage your margin usage at any time in the settings. Okay, so we're going to click done. And as you can see, I now have my margin balance right here. It has increased. And for those of you who are on phones, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for you. Okay, so this is it. Now, I want to click explore your margin, and there's a reason for this. Okay, so as you can see, I have total maintenance required. This is the total amount of money that I need to maintain in order to not get a margin call. That's what I believe this actually translates to my knowledge. So you always want to kind of have at least this kind of cash available in case of worst case scenarios if you use margin, but preferably you're probably going to want a lot more. And I'll explain why in a bit. And then as you can see, my portfolio value, which is this whole green, dark green area, is 3,970. So let's talk about interest. So it says 1K interest free. Okay. Now, if we click on here, it says this is calculated daily. That's something to keep in mind. This is calculated daily on your settled individual cash balance at the end of the trading day at a rate of 5.5% divided by 360. I'm going to go into this in a bit. Interest is accumulated daily and will charge your individual account every 30 days at the end of your billing cycle. The displayed amount is your interest accrued on the previous day. With Robinhood Gold, your first $1,000, it says first, so maybe I'm wrong, but your first $1,000 of margin is interest free. So click OK, and you can set borrowing limits. Now, I don't know anything about borrowing limits, so I'm not going to touch that, but let's hop into the settings mark real quick. So another thing to note is with margin, again, you can set those borrowing limits. It'll tell you right here your usage, your total amount, margin maintenance that you need to have or that is required, and yeah, to your daily limits and everything, and etc. So that's something to keep in mind. And at any point in time, if you have any interest that is unpaid, it will be listed down here. Now, another section you can go to is the investing section. Let me see. I think I can just, yeah, okay, this is cool. So at any point in time, you can go down to the investing section. And as you can see here, margin investing is enabled. It'll tell you how much margin you're using, how much maintenance you need, and if you're doing options as well, same thing. And it'll also, if you scroll down a bit more, nope, this isn't it, guys. Oh, and when you use margin, it'll probably end up showing right here how much margin was being used because your total portfolio value will increase based on the margin, even if your actual account value isn't that because you're using margin. Okay, does that make sense? So let's quickly hop over to this. So things you need to know about using margin. In order to use margin, like I said originally, you need a minimum account balance of $2,000. All right. And here's something to note. The first thing is this. When you get paid dividends, it's going to pay off your margin balance once the funds has cleared if you do not have drip set up. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. So anytime you get dividends, it'll automatically go towards paying down your margin balance, your margin interest that's owed. Okay. Another thing to note is when you deposit more cash. So going back here, when you deposit any kind of cash, it's going to go down. It's going to pay off your margin balance. So your margin balance that's owed will decrease, and your margin total that's available will increase. Okay. So if you deposit $2,000 with the hopes of I'm going to invest the $2,000 and then I'm going to use another $2,000 margin, you can do that, but technically your margin balance is going to go down, or your margin used is going to go down by $2,000 if you've already used that, and then you can use $4,000 worth of margin if that's what you wanted to do. Okay, now I hope that makes sense, but basically, long story short, when you deposit more cash, it's going to pay off your margin balance if you have one. Another thing is when you turn on drip, the dividends will get reinvested and not pay off margin. So for those of you who want your dividends to keep reinvesting and just don't want to pay off the margin right away, or you want to defer the margin being paid off, or you plan on paying off the margins with other income, then that's something to keep in mind, okay? So if you don't want to pay off the margin with your dividends that you get paid out, you're going to have to turn on drip for those assets, those holdings, okay? And then you are at risk of a margin call if your margin buffer is less than 5%. Ideally, you want to have a margin buffer of 50%. This is probably the safest approach. Now, technically, anything above a 5% is considered low risk on Robinhood's algorithm thing that they show you, but you ideally want 50%. And you could technically be okay with a 30 to 50% margin buffer, but something that you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to be anywhere near the 10%, 15% mark. I recently was there, and when the markets dropped over 10% with the tariffs news, I was running the risk of getting a margin call. Now, I luckily had the funds to pay it off. So, in my situation, it was okay. But for many people, they don't have those funds that I've been seeing on YouTube. Many people are unemployed or they just are over leveraging themselves, aka using more margin than they can afford to pay off. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. And I didn't write it here, but basically, my advice is at any point in time when you're using margin, you want to have at least that same amount to pay off your margin available in your bank account at some point in time. Because if ever the market does decide to take a gruesome dip, you want to be able to pay that off without any worries or cares in the world. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. And then lastly, don't ever use 100% of your margin, available margin. You are going to get margin calls unless it's an absolute tear of a bull run and you just so happen to buy the bottom, which, by the way, that's never really the case for 99.99% of people. But if I use this total margin of $4,215 after I've spent, oh, and that's something I'll cover in a second, after I've spent my $714.88, unfortunately, you will probably get margin called by just the smallest change in the smallest dips. It could be like 1, 2, 3%, something like that, and you are going to get margin called. You're going to have to pay that all off, or they're going to sell off your assets, aka your holdings, your stocks, your ETFs, what have you. So that's something to keep in mind. And last but not least, if you have a cash balance when you turn on margin, you will not be using your margin until your cash balance is paid off. This is something that you really need to keep in mind, okay? So if you have $700 and it's sitting in your account, you turn on margin and you're saying, oh, sweet, I'm just going to keep my $700 in cash and I'm just going to use $700 in margin instead. It doesn't work that way. This will have to go down to zero before you can end up using any margin. All right, so just keep that in mind as well. Now, with all that being said, let's hop right into this real quick and let me zoom in for my friends on the phones. Okay, I hope this is big enough for you guys to see. Okay, so this is an example. If you have a margin balance of $10,000, okay, you're getting charged a interest rate of 5.5% on Robinhood. This example, we are not including that $1,000 in interest free that they give you. Okay, so $10,000 balance, 5.5%. This is what the decimal form of that percentage is. You're going to be getting charged a daily interest of $1.53. So that's every single day. And a monthly interest of $45.83. That's how much you are going to need to pay every single month. Robinhood will charge this to your account and you have to pay it off. So you don't have to pay off your entire margin balance or margin that you used, but you have to at least pay the interest. That is the key. And so at the end of the year, $45.83 times 12 months, you're going to be paying $550 in interest. Now, that isn't bad, actually. For a lot of people, that's less than the interest they get charged on their mortgage. For a lot of people, that's less than the interest they get charged on their auto loans. For a lot of people, that's definitely way less than they get charged for using credit cards, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. And if you guys are curious, the way that I did this is these two numbers are static. I could basically change this. And then this is a formula. So like I read earlier on Robinhood, they divide the interest by 360 days, and that's how they get the daily interest. So what I did is I took the balance and I times it, the interest rate divided by 360 days, which equals that daily interest of $1.53 a day. And then for the monthly interest, I basically just took the $1.53 of daily interest and I times it by 30 days. Now, of course, some months are more days, some months are less, but relatively speaking, I wanted to know what's in 30 days. And then I times that monthly interest by 12. And that's how I got $550. Okay, so if you wanted to create a simple margin calendar for yourself, that's simply how you would do it. Okay, last time I'm going to show it. These are the formulas. And bam. And then these two are static numbers. So like for instance, if you decided to only use $2,000 in margin, this is what you would pay at the end of the year. This is what you're going to be owing every single month. This is what you're going to be owing every single day. And then again, let's just say you use $800. This is what you should expect. Let's just say you're using $8,000 or $7,000. This is what you're also going to expect. Okay. So I hope that's clear. And I hope that all makes sense. Now, with that being said, if you guys really enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it that if you're a new subscriber, make sure to, or a new viewer, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. And most importantly, if you have any questions, comments, if you know more about margin than me, because I am not an expert and this is strictly for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes. This is just what I've kind of learned from using margin, from doing some research, but I am not the master here. I am not a professional or a financial professional here. So if you have any comments, any thoughts you would like to add on top of what I spoke about in margin, if you have any questions or feedback or suggestions of other videos you guys like me to do, comment down below. And with that being said, until next time, guys, take care. Peace.